it's important to control the temperature of a very panicky environment that we work in. And they understand that, and they usually tend to give their advice knowing that, and also knowing the level of seriousness that they need to kind of reach to make sure that things are done in a safe manner. So dealing with a company that's very experienced, understanding the temperature of pretty much what's going on, and fairly assessing it and giving you the options, and having the hands to help you through it and walk you through it. If those are some of the things you're looking for, which I assume that most to all productions need, right? A strong leader in those aspects, this would be the company you're going to do. If you're looking for something that's not overly opposing, but knows the rules directly from the CDC, knows how to listen to the obstacles that you are currently facing, and suggest carefully and actually plan to execute, not just plan to hear. It has the experience, they can validate themselves, through other companies that have said yes and had a great experience. There's always, I call it the afterlife. The afterlife is when the production is done and there's that moment of, hey, I'm in my home, something just happened, let me call a friend. This is your company. And that's helpful because you always want to have a relationship at a level to where you can talk honestly, as opposed to and get a fair and open assessment without judgment. And I think that that's the best case scenario. Set Safely provides that level of safety in terms of a transaction, and then they have the experience to be able to, like I said, assess and break down and come up with a plan. They leave you with a plan, not in your fires. They don't just say, hey, listen, you have a fire, and you have a fire. Set Safely is a company that says, you have a fire, we have a solution, and let's talk about it, over coffee. That's the best case scenario I can tell you. Yeah, and they'll leave you with a smile. It's something that I often reflect on to say I can just co-stamp it in my mind with a good time. The reason why I said that is that they made it seamless. It was a very tough time for all of us working through COVID. We didn't know what we're doing, but we're trying to get something done. But the experience of, one, understanding a problem. Two, understand the temperature of dealing with how some people get, right? Because if you got a camera guy who's mad, who hadn't eaten, but you're telling him to sit in this seat, he's only got to see assignment of this, he can't have food, everything, food needs, snacks cannot be on set at some point in time, just because of the hand interaction exchange, those things, making those things fun, controlling the temperature of certain things, finding ways around it, laughing with the crew from afar, like making the tough moments a level of a norm for all of us, a level of understanding that we're all in this together. It made for great jokes, and it made for a better environment. So when we all won, we won together as opposed to individually. And Set Safe was able to achieve that with the management team, our team. And as a result, the energy just kind of rolled into production. The producers were laughing and they were okay. We worked as a group. We used our form of communication, which were our phones, as our way of being connected. We stayed dialed into what we had to do each day on the call sheet, and we're able to achieve it. So creating that environment, understanding that environment that, hey, when the long days were long, we were all in it, and when the short days were short, we're all laughing to go home together. It's something that I really, really enjoyed, and pretty much implementing the safety rules and measures, making sure that people were masked up, and making fun of it, like joking about it, but at the same time, getting people to a place where there's a level of understanding, and it's just what we have to do as opposed to what you have to do, not singling out people. And it was important because it definitely created a tone and a temperature that worked. And the days were most like, I had people literally calling me and telling me, hey, listen, I'd actually rather be at work than at home. So I should tell you, we have good times on my set. So it was a good time. We kept it fun and we kept it safe. And it was, a lot of that was due to the temperature that we created at the top of the day from Set Safe and myself. I think Set Safe Group is pretty much out to set a standard of a company that achieves safety without in a more positive way. Obviously, the industry, of the entertainment industry in itself is a very fast-paced, very, very, very scarred mentality of a place that can be such a bad, experience. But as we all know in life, time changes everything. And if you're open to it, you'll quickly find out that the one way we do it is not the only way. As time goes on, time creates options and creativity, and set stages and manage to find some options and creativity towards doing things in a way that, complements the old way and kind of infuses the new way and creates a safe environment for everybody, whether it's, adhering to the protocols or the medical side. Jonah brings both of those to the table in experience of over probably like 20, 30 years. And it's important to know that you have somebody that you can lean on to be able to respond that quickly and know what to do. The what to do is the key. That creates the structure for your next move. And once you're structured in what to do, I think you can safely kind of respond to emergencies without panic. And Sesfade does that. One of the biggest experiences that you're dealing with, Jonah, from the perspective of what the CDC, right, would directly correlate their messages with his notes. So as the COVID laws, come out from the CDC, right, there's a level of interpretation that we have to have, whether it be the SAG laws, all right, and then for major production companies and their contract workers or their internal workers, they have pretty much the COVID laws. Viacom has it, VH1 has it, everybody has it. So Jonah wrote, even with YD Free, when we were there, he wrote a lot of the Viacom laws for the set. So he did that for Georgia as well. He really wants good. I've seen him go against major people in this movie, in this entertainment industry. For the betterment of just doing the right thing, and I respect that, and sometimes, you have to have faith, respect and faith, and give people the real opportunity to choose without trying to persuade them. He's a man of character in that matter. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people underestimate in the first and the second quarter, but it's a necessity to pretty much breath in the fourth quarter. And then you'll find yourself looking again for it. I was working as the production manager for a show, I remember once for VH1, and it was a reality-based show. It was during the heightened, period of COVID. It was a bit chaotic because we were struggling to find ways that we could, safely move crew, or, you have a bulk of people, you pretty much meet at the top of the day, you got to move in different locations and pretty much take care of them from the top of the day to the end of the day. And there's so many different variables in terms of just moving these people and doing this day in, day out. Outside of the actual managerial pretty much work you have to do, you also have to make sure that people are safe. And one of the issues we're getting, it was a big, massive issue. Actually, it's just how do we safely move people in a point and period of time of something that we can't see, hear, nor touch. This was something that, it took weeks, we're trying to figure it out. We're coming up, there's what if and how so and what do we think and maybes. And then every so often you get lucky and you run across people who are actually dealing with it and have somewhat started to figure out the process of what it is, and so they can advise appropriately at it. It just so happened that Jonah was one of those people on our team, and we got lucky. During this situation, issues such as just like transportation, getting camera guys in the car, getting production in the car, getting talent in the car, dealing with producers and moving those people safely, because as it's been known to me that people could catch COVID literally sitting by somebody else in the car. If I'm sitting beside you in the car, I can literally get COVID. I did not know that. So, seat structure, when we're there kind of cleaning certain things, point of contacts, door handles, restaurants or anywhere you're going, pretty much where the point of contact would be, just acknowledging what the point of contact would be. So we had to be a lot more detailed. He sat me down and kind of walked me through what would be the safest plan in terms of what we're doing each day. So it was an additional meeting at the top of the day to kind of get a plan structure from him. And then a meeting with the crew of things to look out for, we could be friendly, but we're living in times where we had to be more aware of our surroundings and the stuff that you would just admit. Hey, for instance, you see a friend in the hall, what's going on? High five, handshake, hug, kiss. Hey, what's going on? All of those things became obsolete for a second because we had to do without it. A lot of the plans for moving during that time came from him. In addition to that, building ourselves the right way to make sure that germs weren't spread during this time, and also making sure that everything was wiped down and clean. So he created an instant impact. The effect of that without, kind of doing what he did at the top of the day for us would be that we would shut down days, of shooting. And each time we shut down, it cost. There was a massive cost, when we were shooting, because we were held liable for crew, and having somebody to kind of help us put in, the guidelines for safety, on our call sheets and making sure everybody's aware of it. Having the morning meetings, the midday pivots, the evening prep for the next days for necessary action, and it actually helped massively in addition to that because it started mentally massaging people to look out for it. And as soon as we start acting like as a team to do it, the better, because we're able to shoot and get through production pretty smoothly. Every so often when you're in production is it can be very stressful. It's a business that is more reactive at times. You can only plan for I would say about 40% of it. 60% is reacting on the moment. So having someone who has a level of understanding for what you have to do and can think because they have experience, in that environment as well, at the same pace, definitely made for an easier conversation. So the other thing that was strong, that I noticed about him in pretty much the executive summary that he was leading by for this company was that Sensei Group tends to take the initiative to be ahead of the curve. And what that means is that when you're working with other companies, and which I have the experience, doing is that it's more of a responsive reaction. Having the experience of knowing what production works like, they know how to identify what, certain things on a call sheet most people won't, So that saves time and explanation and actually vetting and making sure people understand what's happening. So having the level of experience to know what we were doing from the production perspective and also implementing, regulations that work for us, and just assessing what we were doing helped for sure. And his personality, he's an easygoing guy. He listens first and speaks second. And for me, that's always a winning strategy in terms of just kind of assessing anything. So just listening to what we had, their company tends to evaluate very well with that as their leading kind of punch, listen first, understand what the issues are, and talk about it as opposed to point out the issues. Sensei was solution-based, not problem point out based. So they didn't just get you to your issue and then leave you there. They created solutions and they pitched you solutions and options. And this way we were able to talk through the solutions and make the best case scenarios come from them for the company. I think as a result of the standards that were set during that time, with Set Safety and Jonah, we were all able to kind of remember a good time, as well as implement the positive that came from it. I always say this, whenever you create something over a fun or a positive experience, it's easier to implement over the longer term. So as a result of it, I'm not going crazy trying to ask people to wear their masks, stay 6 feet, apart. We have car seating, assignments. We have, at lunch, we have to be seated a certain way. So a lot of those things are easily now set as opposed to, enforced, under circumstances, that people feel uneasy. Just being able to achieve that, we did it in such a cool, respectful, playful, fun way that it became the norm because outside of the production world, there's also a happening at home. So we were able to advise people also, to take some of these lessons when, and take it into their home, because when they brought their stories of family members, personal stories being hid, one of the big positives in all of this is that Jonah made himself available outside of the workplace, with the company to answer questions, personal questions. So a personal relationship had been kind of dialed into a lot of the production members, and they were able to kind of utilize that, whether it be testing, places to test, places what I need to do to take care of myself, how I need to quarantine, how some of the laws, apply to me in production, union and non-union people. He was able to kind of advise. So kind of having that relationship with the company, once you have a relationship with a company like SetSafe, it's not just for your contractual obligation, the project you're on. It almost stems itself as an ongoing relationship in a place you can call to kind of get advice as to how things are moving with this world we're in now. So that's what kind of kept up. As a result of it, a lot of friends today call him for COVID advice, health safety advice. My mother's got A, B, and C. What do I do? Where do I go? How can I, kind of quarantine myself? How do I, from a health perspective, my family's in it. How do I assess their situation moving forward? And I've known him to even go, at times and meet people and talk with them, if there's a family member that's in a tougher situation. So building the relationship, right, and extending the services outside of production is pretty much the best point that came out of all of this. Because once we kind of exercise the rules in production, it was easier to tell people today that I've worked with. But what was even better was when they had the direct line to the company, and when they needed help, he provided the service.